I start the discussion first from myself over here. Born in 1970, the only thing that I was looking forward the time was going to the school and learning from a teacher and see where my future will lie. I would have 2 hours of sleep after my school as well because there was nothing else to do. I will spend 1 hour of cricket going outside and playing and then coming back and seeing that one channel that was coming at that very point of time on television, and then that 8 o'clock drama that comes on the PTV, and then by 9:30 p.m., the orders of the parents to go and sleep. What was my big picture at that point of time? Majority of the people sitting in this room have never thought where our future was lying. With the word sustainability, I think didn't exist at that point of time. And if we talk about technology, getting the photograph through an MMS was the big technological shift that we were talking about. Back to the future was the dream for all of us. 50 years down the road, sitting over here, having these mobile sets in my hand, talking about the technology and the time that we carry and the busyness all the time and the way we execute the things, the only thing that have shifted in the big picture and the bright spots today is, ladies and gentlemen, that we have to make decisions, and we have to make decisions fast, and we have to learn from decisions on day-to-day basis and move on, because we have a lot of help that comes all across with the experience, with the technology today that can help making us finding the bright spots in the big picture today. That's what I've changed. Today, we have a lot of help coming from all different angles that can help us coming to a point where we can make the decisions in the right way. I remember the first time when somebody got laid off in the organization, it was a bad thing. Perhaps he was not capable enough, and everybody was trying to hide the fact that somebody has been laid off. Today, we all understand that is all the process of all the organizations that we move on, that the things are keep on changing and keep on happening there. The process of learning, unlearning, and learn again will be the mantra of our lives. And now coming to the panelists today. Back in the 70s, there were wars. And I talked about that the worlds and the nations will be decides who had the more military power, who have the more atomic bombs, who have the more power over there. 50 years down the road, I can tell you, the world is run by the financial gurus who are sitting with me on this panelist. They are the ones that will drive and that they will define the way forward, how this strategic direction this country will take. It's all about economic direction. It's all about finance today, and it's all about how and which direction we go about. And that's what we will be discussing today. Amir, coming to you. I used to go to the bank way back. I used to open the account. It's almost 2 years. I have not gone to any of the banks over there. All my transactions are taking place online. Artificial intelligence has taken over by all means. And many of the people have stopped even opening the bank branches. They are doing collaborations with the coffee shops and making coffee shops and putting one computer over there and thinking how the world is. How do you see in the era of this technology the bright spot that we are looking for Pakistan?
Oh, thank you, Saqib. I will try to cover your question very specifically. But for that, we have to draw an analogy between banking and other supermarkets. You talked about when you was young, so in the same era, I was also a kid. So we used to go to stores for shoe. We used to go to a separate store. For Kiryana, we used to go to a separate store. There was a separate sugar shop, a separate ghee shop. But now we go into a supermarket where everything is available. And now if you see at the supermarket do have a virtual space also apart from a physical space. So although physical space has not eliminated, but there is a virtual supermarket as well. So by same analogy, same thing is going to happen with banking as well. So right now, when we go to any place, say for example, we go to any phase of DHA, say DHA phase 6, we will find branches of all the banks. So why can't we have one branch where all the banks are operating? So the bankers have not yet thought about it, but probably going forward, it will actually lead to a lot of cost reduction for banks. Actually, people are thinking that these branches are cost and people will not be visiting branches. Yes, to some extent they will not be, but still we do visit supermarkets. So if all the banks are present in one branch, you can access their services. And then there is a need for super apps as well, whereby all the branch and white label app, whereby all the banks can be accessed to the same app. So we are into a transition phase in Pakistan, and I think there is a huge opportunity for banks in Pakistan because this is pretty much an untapped market. Although physical banking will remain in place because there is a need for relationship as well. For some of your financial needs, you need to deal with a human being. So it cannot be eliminated completely, but it will be optimized. So both models will run in parallel with each other. And the brick and mortar model will reduction in the brick and mortar presence will lead to cost savings definitely for the bank, and using technology will definitely enable banks to reach more people more efficiently. But one important thing which I like to highlight for this change to happen. So change happens because of a couple of things. One is definitely an incentive to change, and other one is a compulsion to change. So when you started using your smartphone, there was enough incentive to use it, but if today you stop using a mobile phone, I think the situation is you will be compelled to use it, because then you will be out of the market. So there is a need for compulsion and there is a need for incentive. So in Pakistan, if you look at Pakistan economy, our money in circulation is almost 35-36% of our total M2. If we go to China, somebody talked about China in previous discussions, it's 3.7 or 4%. If you go to Bangladesh, it's 15%. So there is a need for demonetization, and as the economy will demonetize, people will move into banking. So the major source of, the major reason probably of low penetration of banking is also very high currency in circulation. And now the currency in circulation, whatever incentive you give probably will not reduce, because it didn't reduce only because of incentives in India as well. It reduced because of both compulsion, which were the administrative measures leading to demonetization, and an incentive. So probably one model can be, at one point in time, the administrative portion of the government pushes the economy to demonetize. And on the other hand, there is an incentive to deal electronically with counterparties and among merchants. So right now the situation is, if you use cash, there is no transaction fees. If you use digital payments, there is a transaction fee. So I think this has to reverse. So somebody who is dealing in cash, there should be a transaction fees, even at branch counters and retailer counters. And somebody dealing in digital currencies, there should be no transaction fees. So there should be an incentive to deal in digital currencies. Only then you will have enough data available with reference to financial transactions that you can use artificial intelligence to read consumer behaviors and build model on that. So right now there is a lot of discussion about artificial intelligence with reference to building personas and models on consumer behavior, but there has been little being done than said and discussed. But there are other use cases for artificial intelligence inside the bank, like optimizing cash inside the ATM machine, which some of the banks including Mizan Bank is doing, optimizing cash in the cash houses, optimizing your insurance policies. So they are all based on data analytics, machine learning and artificial intelligence. So there is a definite positive use cases, but the use cases for credit scoring has yet to kick in into Pakistan, whereby you can dish out small nano loans and micro loans based on credit scoring.
I come from the telco background. You put a very interesting point over here. I remember they used to have the towers at every corner, 4 or 5 towers. And then eventually we come to a point where we said we used to have one tower so that this can be used. I think I just got a new house in Islamabad, and in the new market, the plazas are just ready, and the only thing that are there are 7 new banks. That tells me that the utilization is there, but I totally agree with your point. Zishan, coming to you, this world is changing very fast. This geopolitical situation, especially considering Pakistan in the middle of it, whenever somebody asks me and define why Pakistan is always in the news, I always tell them, when you have India, Iran, Russia, China, Afghanistan on your borders, why will not be on the news? The company that you deal with, in order to find the bright spots, what are the key parameters that defines, especially considering the Pakistan current geopolitical situation, are the important factors for defining these bright spots for Pakistan?
This is working?
Yeah, it's
Thank you, Saqib. And let me begin by thanking Azfar and the Nutshell team for organizing this forward-looking event, bringing us all together and giving me the opportunity to be part of this panel. So as you say, the world we live in today is full of geopolitical challenges. If you look at the last 2 or 3 years, the geopolitical challenges are unfortunately increasing. The world is becoming more polarized. 2.5 years ago, Ukraine and Russia kicked off and had implications way beyond the borders of those two countries. Pakistan sits in a region with Afghanistan where there are ongoing significant challenges. Now, with the conflict in the Middle East and the risks that are associated with that conflict, there are significant headwinds. As an institution that our raison d'etre is working on emerging markets and developing countries, it's part of a job requirement almost to be perennially optimistic and look for bright spots, and we do the same in Pakistan. We continue to be positive in terms of our outlook. There are multiple bright spots one can point towards, but maybe in the interest of time, I'll talk about 4 categories. And actually, a number of them overlap with what Dr. Ishrat spoke about. Each of these bright spots or opportunities are bright spots and opportunities only if something is done about them in the right way. Otherwise, they can all turn into bigger problems for Pakistan in the years to come. So the first one is around the human capital that exists in Pakistan. As has been said by other speakers this morning, the country has 65% of its population is under 30. It's the 9th largest labor market in the world. By 2030, it'll be the 7th largest consumer economy in the world. It's a country that is adjacent to a region to its west, which is very resource rich, but very human resource poor. You only have to travel to that part of the world and realize how big an issue this is. At the same time, Pakistan's starting point on many of these issues is quite low, especially when it comes to women participation in the economy. So for us, a bright spot is around the potential that Pakistan has around realizing its human capital. A recent study we put out suggested that if Pakistan was able to increase its performance in the various human capital indicators to come alongside its peers, so other countries in similar incomes, there is about a 30 to 32% increase in GDP possible from that. Similarly, there is various studies that confirm that if women participation in Pakistan was to increase to a level that is commensurate to where men are, that's another 30%. So you don't have to go all the way. Even a fraction of that increase can result in significant uptick in economic performance and growth in Pakistan. Again, the human capital is a dividend only if you deal with it the right way. Otherwise, the flip side of it is that you have a country where 75% of 10-year-olds cannot read age-appropriate text, 40% of 5-year-olds are stunted in their growth. So if this is not dealt with the right way, the opportunity of the bright spot can very quickly turn into a major challenge. The second bright spot or opportunity that we're optimistic about is the resilience of the private sector. In this country, I've now been here a year and a half, and I've had the opportunity to meet with investors of all sizes. And it amazes me how resilient people are here, the private sector here. They're used to volatility, they're used to political uncertainty, economic uncertainty, and it doesn't take a lot for them to turn things around. And that's an asset for Pakistan. And it's something that I think policymakers and others, institutions like ours and others that are trying to assist Pakistan on its economic growth journey can take a lot of comfort from. Again, Pakistan starts at a very low starting point. A recent report that IFC and the World Bank put out talks about export potential close to $90 billion. Talks about various aspects of, say, the agri sector, which gets talked about and was talked about this morning as well. Fifth largest dairy market in the world, fourth largest livestock market in the world, $1 billion worth of milk wasted every year. So there's so many things that can be done if only the ecosystem can be sort of put together the right way, and we're optimistic about that. I'll pick up speed since I realize I'm running out of time. The final two reasons to be optimistic in the list is, one is around the ongoing push for reform. I think it is clear and everybody knows that Pakistan's economy has deep structural issues which require difficult reforms, which are politically and economically challenging. We're encouraged by some of the push for that reform. The reason I am personally optimistic about it is as an institution, we talk to all stakeholders, including private sector, government, policymakers, IFIs. We now see an alignment amongst stakeholders within the government, stakeholders within multilaterals, IFIs like ourselves, as well as credible members of the private sector on what needs to be done to fix the country's economy. And I think people understand these are difficult things to do, but are absolutely needed. So that gives us a reason of optimism and a bright spot. And the final point, which may be slightly odd as a bright spot, but we think it is, it's around the climate opportunity in Pakistan. I think it's fair to say that the floods that occurred in Pakistan in 2022 have really put Pakistan on the map of the climate agenda globally. It's very powerful to sit in a room in DC, London, New York, Dubai, and say that the floods in 2022 caused more damage in Pakistan than the cumulative damage of climate disasters 30 years preceding that. And that really gets people's attention. And Pakistan now has that attention. The issue or the opportunity is around channeling that attention into funds for Pakistan. And there is a lot of climate funds out there. The problem is they're not coming to Pakistan. So the opportunity that exists, and one that we're quite focused on, is trying to channel that, again, with working both with the public sector as well as the private sector, to try and bring and highlight the opportunity that exists in Pakistan around climate, both in terms of adaptation and mitigation. And we believe if that can happen, that can be a key area and a driver of growth in Pakistan going forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Zishan. Zishan talked about multiple things. He talks about the potential, and we all talk about the potential. But how that potential needs to be nourished, that's the big question in the room. We all know what our potential are. And that takes me to my next question towards Fatma. Fatma, I know you're a big champion of the talent. But this big talent, it's leaving Pakistan like anything. We are not competing with our competition today. We are competing with the world outside. We talk about a youth. We talk about a lot of people present and young people there. We talk about the skill development. But how to retain that talent? And most importantly, what is the role of innovation and adaptation and the skill development that Dr. Ishrat also mentioned there, the role, how we can retain this talent in Pakistan?
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Asfar and the Natural team for this opportunity. That is the key and fundamental challenge and priority. Most of the speakers earlier this morning and my colleagues before me as well have highlighted that human capital development is fundamentally should be at the center of any policy making going forward. It is not just about focusing on the services economy. It's about realizing the transition that is being made at a global level towards certain priorities that must be upheld. Now, if I look at it from a corporate angle, and we talk about attraction and retention of talent, very simply put, as business leaders, we look at how do we attract the talent, and then the next focus is how do we ensure there's retention of talent. The first element for me would be brand building. That is what attracts talent to you. The second for retention is the culture within any organization, whether it is an institution, whether it is a private sector, public sector, or even at the national level. And fundamentally, and as I said, it's a very simple way to address it, is saying, are we doing enough in order to build our brand, whether at the national level or at the organization level? And secondly, what kind of culture are we maintaining to sustain the focus that maybe as, what in terms of the business plans that we have, the objectives that we have. So I feel when you roll it back from a Pakistan perspective, the pivot that has taken place in most corporate entities, and if I speak for my own organization, is when you pivot towards the future, you also pivot fundamentally on strategic objectives. You pivot obviously in terms of the environment of systems, policies, procedures, maybe re-looking at collaborations, the services and the products and the markets that you serve. But fundamentally, you have to also pivot towards rebuilding your human capital, ensuring that they're reskilled, ensuring that they are positioned for the future. And that in itself, fundamentally, ladies and gentlemen, becomes a question mark for Pakistan. That are we doing enough to develop a human capital base which will take us into the future? And right now, we're not. Dr. Irshad Saab mentioned very clearly in terms of education being one of our priorities. And education, to my mind, is not just about academic excellence. It is about the culture and the values that we instill. It's about quality that is imparted to the grassroots, not just your top-tier cities within Pakistan. And it is also about a holistic experience, whether it's sports or whether it's extracurricular as well. That is the holistic learning. Now, if I collapse that back to an organization, the challenge that we have and where we have shifted is focusing on exports from a technology perspective. And the board that has given me the challenge is saying, how do we stay relevant and sustainable if we are to truly become an international organization? Serving 30 countries is not easy from Pakistan, where your greatest challenge is human capital access at the right time, where there is a dearth of that particular skill set, where there is a war for talent for the same usual suspects. So are we doing enough to build that capacity, whether through collaboration, whether through partnerships? That is one of the mainstays, either in the private sector, even in the public sector, but must be spearheaded and supported by the government entities from a policy making perspective. If we have a 2030 vision, how will we achieve that if we don't have the right person in the right seat? The second element is culture. Ladies and gentlemen, most of you know better than I do, culture eats strategy for breakfast. If we cannot sustain a culture which will ensure sustainability, sort of an environment which nurtures, as you mentioned, nurtures and builds for the future, but also on compassion, because this world is hurting. Overall, we have many challenges, the conflict that Zishan also spoke about and we're all aware of, whether it was the Ukraine, whether it's the Middle East conflict right now. But within Pakistan, we're hurting as well. How can we build a better future for the next generation? I am still very hopeful because I feel that the energy and the passion of our next generation is very high. You look at the startup culture, you look at the technology sector, which is on a 25 to 30% growth rate, barring last year where we continue to have political instability and uncertainty, but inshallah, one hopes that that will also be sorted out. They are moving faster, they're connected, they're global citizens, but we must channelize that energy to build for the future. Thank you.
Very, very nicely put, and I think I must say that Fatma highlighted the very, very right point. it's about the culture, it's about the retention, and we are always talking about there is a lot of talent. But guys, when we try to find the talent, we don't find it. And the only way we can retain it out by providing that culture that can get them connected to this country, to the people, to the organizations. Ahmed, before coming to you, actually I will jump to Yusuf, and there is a reason for that one, because I want to link the question of Fatma and coming to you. First of all, Yusuf, mashallah, Faisal Bank is doing a great job. I think the way this Islamic banking front has been taken over by you and your team, I think it has really put you guys in the forefront over there. So great work done by Faisal Bank overall as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will jump to the question. We are talking about the talent retention. What is the role that you feel the technology and the recent technology in terms of the artificial intelligence that we are talking about, blockchain that we are talking about, in getting the next level of customer experience management and also for the retention of the people that you are defining now in your organization?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me over here. You know, this Generation Z or even the next generation, they really don't want to work in a conventional way, okay? And in order to sort of harness, or in order to rather attract that talent, you have to create an environment for them, clearly. So, say in our bank, I mean, the digital team really wants an environment. They want their flexibility, they want their own work hours, they want to be task-oriented or project-oriented rather than sort of being regimented in terms of an office environment. So I think we need to understand that as it was highlighted, that the banking is actually changing its face. So in our country, because of the cash in hand, yes, and because people don't want to pay taxes, so branches will probably remain relevant in terms of cash. But you know, a lot of things which are operational in nature, even if a customer has cash, he would still like to use your applications, your digital applications for carrying out the routine transactions in terms of, say, bill payments, in terms of credit card payments. So probably the inflow at the branches will absolutely reduce, okay? So the entire thing will take a paradigm shift, and as it was talked about, like a financial supermarket, the banks will need to change their product offerings as well. So the product offerings are going to be not just the banks, but they're going to be fintech alliances, they're going to be many different things. They're probably going to put you through a banking app to maybe a supermarket, a food panda, I mean, who knows, okay? So, so getting this talent and harnessing this talent and forging those alliances, I think is going to be the future. And retention of such talent actually has become increasingly difficult in Pakistan because the whole world is open to them. So Fatma is on our board, and in the HR committee, we find it difficult, actually difficult, that how do we retain the technology personnel, the digital personnel, because they have a global market. And the only answer really is that in addition to money, you create that environment. You create those learning opportunities for your people and for them as well, in terms of keeping them engaged, keeping them interested, giving them that space that they really want. So in our bank, for that matter, I mean, we are not only sort of trying to create that atmosphere. So there's a very colorful sort of a floor, which is for the digital people. They can come and go at their own timings, okay, and you'll find them working at 12 and not being there at 11, okay, and that's fine, because that's what this generation wants. So I think engaging them, giving them a sense of achievement that you have done this, and giving them sort of that freedom and letting them engage with the external world. Because, you know, banks in Pakistan, or I mean a mid-sized bank like ourselves, we do not have that bandwidth, we will not have those resources to do everything ourselves. So creating those relationships, putting them at the forefront, letting them celebrate whatever the successes are there. I mean, if you say do a fintech alliances, and if you build up that into a business, if you have say 20,000, 50,000 customers through that alliance, I mean that's something that you need to sort of empower them, and you need them to feel a part of this entire thing. Because, you know, without that engagement, without that atmosphere, without that environment, without that sort of learning opportunities for them, the banks will not be working. And even any other organization which is dealing with public at large, I think that's really the future. And that's what all of us will have to do in terms of retaining. There was this discussion about retention of talent. That's all of us will have to do that, to create some opportunities for them. And for organizations other than maybe banks, there need to be platforms where they can sit together, they can actually, I mean, develop some export market, something like that. So I think that will be the critical part going forward.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. You highlighted the point of collaborations. You highlighted the point that how the workplace and this ecosystem needs to be changed to adapt to the millennials that we are talking today. And the very important point, they are very project-based. They are very task-based. They don't want to be just there 9 to 5. They want to complete the job and they want to get the results. That's how we have to relate to the talent of today, just to make sure that the retention remains over there. Ahmed, coming back to you on that front. We are talking about talent. The boundaries between the countries, yes, they remain today just on the floor or on the zameen. But if we talk about the technology has blurred all these boundaries that we talk today. How do you see the customer of today is very well aware what he wants? He exactly knows what kind of product that he wants, what he wants sitting at the home. He is very well aware of the global practices as well. Knowing the Pakistan market, how the technology can help you to get the better customer experience that the customer of Pakistan today is looking forward to.
Thank you, Saqib, and thank you, Nutshell. It's a good question, and I'll contextualize it for the institution that I work for, and I think it applies generally to other banks as well. Banking in principle has two core assets as we look at them. One is our people, and the other is the technology platforms that we have. It's a very simple business in that way. Over time, a third element has come through, which is the intersection of talent and the intersection of technology, and that is data. So if you look at a company like Citi, which has been around for 200 years, we operate in 100 plus countries, we have 30,000 clients globally on the institutional side, we move $4 trillion a day globally between places. There's an enormous amount of data that we have. And if we couple that with the appropriate talent, data scientists and engineers, we couple that with the right platforms and technology like AI, like machine learnings, etc., it becomes an incredibly powerful asset. And that is what helps distinguish us from other institutions, that data and that analysis and that content that we can provide to our clients. Oftentimes, when we have discussions with sovereign governments and policymakers around the world, they're surprised by the analysis that data provides, because we have that visibility even before they do. Why do we have that? It's not because of anything special, it's because of the ability to mine that data that's available. Now, if you bring that more closer to home, Citi is a very large US dollar clearer in the country. And over the past few years, we saw a trend coming through when we analyzed the data of payments coming in and out of the country. And that related to freelancers. And I'm contextualizing it in the local space so you understand what the value of this proposition is. freelancers 5-6 years ago were a very small portion of the inflows the country would receive in terms of dollar payments. Now that is a very significant part of the overall exports that the country generates. And what's most encouraging is if you look at where these payments are being received from and to whom the payments beneficiary are. So we will have an individual sitting out in Chichavatni who had a small TikTok account, and he is monetizing that. It started off with $10, went to $50, $100, and now we see data showing that these customers are generating revenues of in excess of $30,000, $40,000 a month. Without any sovereign support, they don't need any support from anybody. They've got a few laptops, they have probably a few teams ready, they're generating content, they're mining data, and they're creating their own value proposition. This in itself, if we were a retail bank here, would give us an opportunity from a personal banking perspective. You see a customer is generating wealth, how about a mortgage? How about a credit card? How about a wealth plan, et cetera, et cetera. So the point I'm trying to make is that all banks, and I think Amir made the point earlier, we've sitting on this treasure trove of data that we have to be able to mine. For that, we need the right talent. And the points both Yusuf and Fatma made are very relevant. The ability to retain that talent in the country and not export it as soon as they graduate. And the second thing is the willingness and the aptitude and the culture to go beyond traditional banking approaches of let's set up a branch and hope somebody comes in and buys a product from us, because that's outdated and that's no longer relevant in today's space.
No, very, very rightfully pointed out. In terms of when you talk about data, data is the new oil. There is no doubt on this one. And we are sitting on this data. But what to do with this data is a question mark. We need data analysts to give us the results. Just sitting on the data will not help. We need the analysts to tell us what should be our next step on that one. Zanfar Saab, coming to you. When we talk about overall, coming to you on that front. When we talk about where this world is heading to, and we talk about economic indicators, Pakistan में inflation बढ़ गई, Pakistan में एकदम rates, interest rates change हो गए, पता लगा जी where we are heading to, how these foreign investors should depend on which key parameters and how they can make sure how their future can be, if investments can be secured based on these parameters. How do you see in next 3 years, 5 years, and 7 years the future that lies ahead for the big picture?
Thank you, Saqib. Well, I think in terms of the reforms that we expect to be carried out now, what I think Amir mentioned, probably reforms by compulsion, because I think we delayed our reforms for a very long time because either we were able to borrow or because of the Afghan situation we were getting dollars. But I think in terms of privatization, there will be a lot of assets that will be sold. There will be opportunities for domestic and foreign investors to come in and add value there. I think agriculture is an area where, about half of our produce sort of actually just sort of gets destroyed because we do not have the logistics or the storage or processing, packaging, exporting, infrastructure. I think that's where some big players can come in, and add value. In terms of exports, we see a change. It's good to see that even cement, if you look at the cement industry, you see a very substantial increase in their exports. I'm on the board of International Steel. You see a large portion of our revenue now is coming from exports. So even something, as bulky, as heavy as cement and steel, people are looking towards exports. So I think in this situation where the domestic economy is going to grow, in my view, slow, maybe about 3% per year, cannot go beyond that because of our import constraints. I think exports, people are more looking towards exports, and there are opportunities there. Then import substitution, because a lot of things that we were importing, from LEDs to tiles to whatever, now that window is closing. So I think there is a lot of potential to set up import substitution industries. And this is where, joint ventures with, for example, Chinese will help. China was growing at 9-10%, now it's growing at about 4-5%. It's a lot of idle capacity lying in China. So if, for example, somebody wants to set up an LED plant in Pakistan, so if you're just going to ask, to State Bank to provide you the dollars so you can import machinery from China, State Bank might not be able to provide you all those dollars. But I think a joint venture with a Chinese company where you bring them as a shareholder, give them some stake, and basically, so the machinery comes as a part of that stake, and then, in terms of running, in terms of the local investment, you can do that part. I think those type of joint ventures have a lot of potential now, because now that the currency is fairly valued, and there are restrictions now in terms of how much we can import as a country. I think import substitution carries a lot of value. So I think there are these bright opportunities even that will come up in this environment, and hopefully domestic and foreign investors can benefit from it.
I think that's the challenge that we go there. You have seen I have got 4 chits already, so I will be jumping on 1 minute each and this will be the same question coming in. What are the 2 bright spots that you see in the near future for Pakistan? Everybody gets ready, and you cannot repeat the one that has already been said. Here you go.
Yeah. One is Islamic banking. There's huge potential. The banking penetration is low. According to State Bank's CAP study, 90% of the people who have, if given an option, will go for Islamic banks. So I think this is a real bright spot, massive growth around it. And the second is the youth bulge. So we can impart vocational trainings to our youth, which can take 6 to 8 months, and then we can export services out of Pakistan, both physically and virtually.
Good points. Zishan, over to you.
It's a bit unfair since I already gave you 4 bright spots. So I think, again, a number of bright spots, but if I was to not pick the 4 that I talked about, I do think the opportunity that Pakistan has at the moment to pivot fundamentally some of its core economic challenges is a bright spot if that opportunity can be achieved. These are very, very difficult decisions to make from a political economy perspective. If there is that alignment across the various stakeholders and difficult reforms can be pushed through, I think in the longer term, it would be fundamentally valuable and a major bright spot for Pakistan. So I think that would be one. And the other one, several others have spoken about, is the youth-related opportunity, especially around the VC startup, sort of freelance space, very much an up-and-coming area. Thanks.
Fatma?
Thank you. You put a tough challenge. We can't repeat what has already been said. But, again, I will go out on a limb and say it is the human capital that we have. Definitely the youth. Only if we give them the right platforms and opportunities to build themselves for the future. 2, I believe very good work is being done around the technology sector to spearhead it, because we have to understand that the technology sector is not confined to its own sector per se. It has impact on all other sectors, whether we talk about agri-tech or health tech or education tech, plus the ability for it to seamlessly work across borders. So I feel that is the bright spot.
Yeah. Good. Ahmed, over to you.
Yeah, very quickly. What COVID taught us was that work can be done from anywhere. And you don't need to necessarily import talent into your country, for example, if you're sitting in the Middle East, to fill any gaps that you have. Work can be done, whether if you're done 10,000 miles away, 20,000 miles away. Time zones is not an issue. Pakistan has a great opportunity to capitalize on this arbitrage, showcase itself as potentially a regional hub for doing work related to technology, whether it's HR-related functions, whether it's on the medical space, etc. It is a great arbitrage opportunity. I think there's some companies who have done a great job in marketing Pakistan with their head offices. We've done some work at Citi, but I'd encourage everybody in this room who have international businesses, please showcase the talent in the country, please showcase the labor arbitrage opportunity we have, and I think that definitely is something to look out for.
Good. Yusuf, over to you.
I think value-added manufacturing, and somebody spoke about the joint ventures. I think if China is saturating, then we have an opportunity there, and that collaborative approach is the name of the game. 250 million people, I mean, you have to employ them. Not everybody is going to be trained into the service sector or the technology sector. You will have to do some industrialization in the country. I think we have deindustrialized in the last 25 years. So that momentum in terms of employing the people and being a hub for some things which maybe China doesn't want to do. So like this tire manufacturing plant was set up under a joint venture, something similar to that, where you can actually export using the technology and the sort of support by China. I think that's a great opportunity.
Amjad Saab, over to you.
You see, in expected years of schooling, Pakistan is ranked 145 out of 149 countries, key countries in the world. So I think in terms of education, we can do a lot. And I think public-private partnership, where the government just gives a voucher, let's say 1,000 rupees a month, and the private sector then basically takes care of the schooling, which already is there but at a lower level, I think can add a lot of value. So I think we need to, in secondary school enrollment, Pakistan is 45% children are going to secondary school. In India and Bangladesh, 80% children are going to secondary school. So I think this public-private partnership can actually, in a short period of time, make that change, get these people educated. Very important.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have touched a very difficult topic. Because why I say a difficult topic? Because we all know the reasons, we all know the causes, we all know in all these talks, we talk about what is needed to be done. The question here is now, how is this to be executed now? You know, we talk about, we exactly know where our pain points are. To be honest, we also know how this can be corrected, where the gap is coming is in our execution. We have already talked about today, youth is our key. We have talked about that skill development is the key way to move forward, which is our bright spot. Collaborations and working with different people, different organizations and getting to the one result, that is the direction to go forward. Technology is the enabler. That is the one that is making sure how we can achieve all these different parts coming together. Clearly, the COVID has taught us that the work can be done from anywhere, and the whole market outside Pakistan is also something there for us to get the work done from here and get that business for Pakistan as well. Joint ventures are the key, and the public partnership, private partnership is the direction to go forward. I think what I said at the start, I repeat again, the war is not anymore led by the bombs. The war is led in the finance, and we need to get ready with these warriors together and get our systems ready. I tell you, if we are not ready today, we will be isolated out in the world, and we will already have all these different parameters, being banks, being fines, and everything coming in. We need to be credible, we need to be there in the market, and we need to present ourselves as the market where the youth is available and we can get the things done over here. I thank you very much for all the panelists over there. I think you did a great job in giving the times up that was coming in again into me, and I think we were able to get the key messages out that are required to be heard and understood as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. I'll request the respected panel to please stay on stage for our next segment with our mementos being presented. For that, I will request Dr. Ishrat to please join us on stage, Shoaib to please join us on stage. I will be requesting Dr. Ishrat to please give away the mementos to our esteemed guests. Thank you, Dr. Ishrat. Shoaib, please join us. If I could request Aswar, please, to join us on stage. Thank you. Farooq Saab, if I could have you on stage, please. Thank you. Dr. Ishrat, if you could present it to Muhammad Shoaib. Bonanza Satrangi has given us these precious gifts of fragrances, and we have the very, very valuable book by Dr. Ishrat, Development Pathways. Mr. Yusuf Hussain, President and CEO of Faisal Bank. For Zishan Sheikh, Country Manager, Pakistan and Afghanistan, IFC. Fatima Asad Saeed, CEO, Abacus. Ahmed Khan Bozai, Managing Director and City Country Officer, Citibank. Amjad Waheed, Chief Executive Officer, NBP Funds. Syed Amir Ali, Deputy CEO, Mizan Bank Limited. Saqib Ahmed, Managing Director, SAP Pakistan, Iraq and Afghanistan. Have we missed out Fatima here? I announced the name. Fatima, have you gotten your? Oh, okay. I'll announce Fatima Asad Saeed, Chief Executive Officer, Abacus. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would now like to request Lieutenant General Ahmed Khan Bozai, Managing Director and City Country Officer, Citibank. Have we covered all? I would now request Lieutenant General Bilal Akbar, former Ambassador of Pakistan to Saudi Arabia, to join us on stage to present the memento to Dr. Ishrat Hussain. Her Excellency Jane Marriott, High Commissioner of the United Kingdom in Pakistan. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If I could request Rabia to please come for the group photo.
All of you are requested to please join us here again at 2 p.m. We will start our next session at 2 p.m. and time management is requested. Thank you, everyone.